Hello, all of you Hellions. Welcome or welcome back, whichever it may be. This week, I'm going to continue talking about movies that were adapted from Edgar Allan Poe stories and poems, starring Vincent Price. Heads up, there will be spoilers on both story and movie. Here we go. I'm going to give you a little background on Poe before we get into this. In 1836, Poe married his 13-year-old cousin, Virginia Clem. He was 27. Then, in 1838, Poe and his family moved to Philadelphia, and he publishes his only full-length novel, The Narrative of Arthur Gordon Pym. Also in 1838, he publishes a story titled Ligeia. And this is the story we're going to go over today. It is thought that Poe got his inspiration from tragic events from his childhood, such as the death of his mother and stepmother, all at a very young age. As in many Poe stories, the narrator is unnamed. He speaks of the past, of the woman Ligeia who became his wife, and whose maiden name he could not recall. What he could recall was her pale beauty and long dark hair, that she was a ferocious lover during long intercourse, and was highly intelligent. He loved her with his entire soul. And then Ligeia grew ill. She fought hard against death and asked her husband to read aloud a poem she herself had written. This is a poem of death, the hero being the conquering worm. Ligeia jumps to her feet, crying out to God, then falls back to her deathbed. Her final words are uttered, "Man doth not yield him to angels, nor unto death utterly, save only through the weakness of his feeble will." And then she died. He has much wealth, and no longer wishing to stay in their shared home, he bought an abbey several months after the death and aimlessly wandered while in grief. The castled abbey, which he will not name, is in the wildest and less frequented area of England. It took some repair. The outside shows some signs of decay. It was gloomy and dreary, and filled with the feeling of abandonment which drew him to it. The inside had a regal magnificence, gorgeous draperies, solemn carvings of Egypt, beautiful furniture, and carpets of tufted gold. He is now in the arms of opium, and his labors and orders to fix up the abbey were colored by his colorful opium dream. He does not wish to talk about these absurdities. He then remarries Lady Rowena Trevanion of Tremaine. He describes the bridal chamber. The shape is pentagonal and huge. A window of a single pane from Venice took up the entire southern face of this chamber. The upper portion was a trellis work of an aged vine, and on the walls, from ceiling to floor, were a heavy and massive-looking tapestry. The tapestry was of the same material as the carpet, ottoman covering, and even the bed. It was covered in arabesque figures that would change as you walked into the chamber. They are grotesque and bizarre. There was always a current of wind that blew behind the draperies, giving them constant animation. The first month of marriage to Lady Rowena was spent in this bridal chamber. It was miserable. Rowena feared his temper and loved him little. This pleased him, for he despised Rowena. She would never be or replace his forever beloved Ligeia. He was on opium more than not at this time. He continually called out Ligeia's name, willing her to walk these halls to be with him again. The second month of marriage, Rowena fell ill with fever, which was slow to go away. During this time, she would complain of sounds and shadows in the chamber. He himself would see and hear nothing, chalking it up to her illness or the grotesque figures on the fabric. She healed, but only momentarily. She became even more ill and stayed that way. No doctors were able to help her, and she spoke more often of the sounds and movement within the chamber. One night, she awoke from an unquiet sleep, extremely worked up, swearing she hears and sees something right now. No attendants are within summoning distance, so he goes to get the wine the doctors prescribed. Only now, as he crosses the room, he feels something go past. He then spots a shadow in the middle of the carpet. He was heavily dosed with opium and figured that that's the cause of this feeling and vision, so says nothing of it to Rowena. He brought her the wine, and as she brought it to her mouth, he suddenly heard footsteps walk to the bed, and he saw 4 to 5 red drops go into the wine. Having not seen this herself, Rowena drinks. Her condition worsened after drinking the wine. 3 days later, she was prepared for the grave. On the 4th night, he sits by her side, opium-fueled and seeing shadows. He hears a sigh and color returns to her cheeks, but only momentarily. The color fades and she is once again stiff. We are headed toward the end of the night now. All of this time, he has thoughts and visions of Ligeia. Throughout the night, this reviving of the corpse continues on, and every time she goes back to death, she seems further along in death. Our writer now wishes to hurriedly bring the story to its conclusion. She now has risen from the bed and walks feebly to the middle of the chamber, eyes closed. Frozen in fear, he does not move. The Lady Rowena seems to have grown taller, and in a single bound, he is at her feet. The death shroud falls from her head, unleashing not Rowena's fair-colored hair, but that which is black as the raven. Her eyes open, and it is the face of his love, his Lady Ligeia. I have always enjoyed reading Edgar Allan Poe stories and poems. He has a beautiful way of expressing how these characters feel, and you really get immersed into these stories. I have been a fan of this story since childhood. 5 Coffins. And now to the movie of 1965, titled Tomb of Ligeia, and starring, of course, the amazing Vincent Price. We open with Ligeia being placed in her tomb. She looks like she did in the story, pale with black hair, and also fought like hell against death. Rowena is much the same as well, blonde and slight. And I have to give her credit here. She's got mad skills on the side saddle. Just look at her go. She first meets Verdun at Ligeia's gravesite, and what a meeting. Rowena is taken to Verdun's home. Like in the story, he lives in an abbey. Right from the start, Rowena is smitten with Verdun and wastes no time bringing up the topic of marriage.
Mary, where are you?
The doctor, father.
Now you stay here, my girl. Willful little bitch, ain't she?
And wouldn't you know it, they marry. Now, in the story, the first month of marriage, the couple was in the bridal chamber. Here, it's quite the opposite. They have separate bedchambers and are hardly together during the day and never at night. Rowena, frightened one night, goes to Verdun's bedchamber to find his bed empty. He comes back dazed and unaware of why he is holding a plate of food. And to add more oddities to this situation is the cat. This cat is everywhere. Ligeia's gravesite, Rowena's room, the bell tower, and all throughout the abbey. This cat has it out for Rowena.
Or has the cat got your tongues?
Most of the scenes in this movie are not in the original story, but the additions were enjoyable. This is a scene where Verdun hypnotizes Rowena and Ligeia speaks through her.
I will always be your wife.
We find out the cat is somehow connected to Ligeia. And at the end, in a hidden bedchamber, Ligeia returns almost, but not quite as she does in the story. Whereas in the story, Ligeia becomes Rowena. Here, they are 2 separate people. Love it. Also, before her death, Ligeia hypnotized Verdun. He has no control or memory of his actions at night, hence the plate of food mentioned earlier that he was holding and didn't know why. She had not removed the hypnotism, is that the right word for it? Before her death, so it continued after she was gone. Rowena had to hypnotize him as well to try to break Ligeia's hold over him. This I found to be a very interesting addition. All in all, I truly did enjoy The Tomb of Ligeia. I felt that they kept enough of the original story in to appease this lifelong fan, but I also enjoyed the additional scenes that were not in it. The original story, I believe, was only about 40 pages long, which most of his stories were that length, if not shorter. So to make a full-length motion picture, they had to add something. They just did. So again, all in all, I really did enjoy this story. I didn't like it as much as I did some of the other Poe adaptations that starred Vincent Price, but it was good. I would give it 3.5 coffins. Solid movie. As an added bonus, on YouTube, you can find multiple videos of Vincent Price reading these stories, including Ligeia. You can find him reading that on YouTube. And in some of them, he actually acts them out, but more on that later. Roger Corman directed 8 Poe adaptations, and this one, Tomb of Ligeia, was his last, and it was filmed in the UK. Now, in the US, it only took 15 days to film his movies, where in the UK, it took 25. This he attributes to the obsession of these people having to have a mass amount of tea breaks. This movie is the only of the Corman Poe series where he actually filmed in multiple locations, as opposed to just a soundstage. So because of this, he considers it to be the biggest and most exciting of his Poe series. Thank you all for watching. If you enjoy this kind of content, go ahead and hit subscribe, stick around for a while, and I'll see you next time.